Inside America's hardest prison, what really happens behind bars? Subscribe for more real crime stories. Like, share, and join the discussion below. The sound of boots echoed down the concrete corridor of California's Pelican Bay State Prison, a place known by inmates simply as the end of the line. Guards had been called to a level 4 solitary unit after reports of a medical emergency. When they arrived, they found one of the most feared gang leaders in the nation, Arturo "Shady" Castellanos of the Mexican Mafia, lying motionless on his cot. Blood smeared the wall beside him. For a moment, the entire prison froze. The man who once controlled hundreds of soldiers from behind these steel doors was now silent. But as officers rushed in, the cameras caught something chilling, a coded message written on the wall in toothpaste and ashes. It wasn't random. It was a prison order, a green light on another inmate. Someone inside Pelican Bay had just triggered a chain of violence that would tear through America's hardest prison like wildfire. To outsiders, Pelican Bay is a name whispered in fear, a fortress built in Crescent City, California, surrounded by fog and razor wire. Inside its walls live some of the most violent men in America, gang shot callers, murderers, and lifers with nothing left to lose. The Prison Security Housing Unit, or SHU, is pure isolation, 8 by 10-foot cells, 23 hours a day, no physical contact, no sunlight except what leaks through a slit in the ceiling. The discovery of Castellanos' body was not just another death. It was the spark that reignited one of the bloodiest internal wars between rival prison gangs, the Mexican Mafia, Nuestra Familia, and Aryan Brotherhood. But what the public didn't know then was that behind the scenes, federal agents had already infiltrated the system, secretly recording gang orders and mapping the entire hierarchy of organized crime, all from inside a single prison block. To understand what led to this moment, how one man's fall triggered years of deadly retaliation and one of the largest prison gang investigations in U.S. history, we have to go back to the beginning. It started in the early 1990s, when California's prison population exploded. Violence inside became so uncontrollable that Pelican Bay was designed as a supermax, a place to bury the worst of the worst. But the men sent here didn't break. They adapted. They built empires through coded letters, hidden notes, and smuggled cell phones. They ordered murders outside the walls, ran drug operations, and used fear as their only currency. Now, as Castellanos' death spread through the cell blocks, everyone, from guards to gangsters, knew the message. No one is safe, not even the king. And just as investigators began piecing together how he died, one shocking discovery in a cell turned the case upside down, a small, handwritten notebook detailing every corrupt officer inside Pelican Bay. When investigators flipped through the small spiral notebook found in Arturo "Shady" Castellanos' cell, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Names, dates, payment amounts, some written in code, others in plain English. It wasn't just a gang ledger, it was a blueprint of corruption inside Pelican Bay State Prison itself. The list detailed how certain correctional officers had allegedly smuggled in contraband, cell phones, drugs, and even handwritten notes, known as kites, messages that carried gang orders from cell to cell. Some officers, according to the notes, had been compromised through intimidation, others by money. The discovery raised one terrifying question: how deep did the rot go inside America's hardest prison? The California Department of Corrections immediately launched an internal investigation, codenamed Operation Black Widow. At first, it was kept secret, known only to a small group of federal agents and state investigators. Their mission was simple: infiltrate the Mexican Mafia and find out how they controlled the outside world from inside a concrete box. Agents began wiretapping phone calls, intercepting coded letters, and flipping low-level members who wanted out. What they found was staggering. Castellanos wasn't just a prisoner. He was the commander of a criminal army operating through fear, loyalty, and brutal discipline. Even locked in a windowless cell for decades, he controlled gang activity across California. But there was more. The notebook revealed that some rival gangs, including Nuestra Familia and the Aryan Brotherhood, were forming temporary alliances to protect their territories. The violence was spreading, from Pelican Bay to Folsom, San Quentin, and beyond. Each week brought another stabbing, another riot, another coded message scratched into a cell wall. Investigators finally caught a break when a former gang associate agreed to cooperate. His name was Carlos Toro Ortega. Facing a life sentence, Ortega agreed to wear a hidden recording device during prison yard time. What he captured was explosive. Senior gang leaders talking about orchestrating hits on informants and even discussing officers who were being bought to move drugs through the system. Meanwhile, the FBI began building a federal racketeering case, linking the prison violence to street-level crimes, shootings, drug deals, and extortion rings operating in Los Angeles and San Diego. Every thread traced back to Pelican Bay's SHU. But then something happened that investigators didn't expect. Just as they were preparing to move in, word of Operation Black Widow leaked. Someone inside law enforcement had betrayed the task force. Within days, witnesses were silenced. One informant's cell was mysteriously left unlocked. Another was found dead, ruled a suicide, though no one believed it. Inside Pelican Bay, the balance of power had shifted again. With Castellanos gone, a new leader was rising, one even more ruthless, and this time, his orders weren't coming from a cell phone or a smuggled note. They were coming from inside the guard tower itself. The revelation that gang orders were being funneled directly from inside the guard tower sent shockwaves through every level of California's prison system. For months, rumors had whispered of a ghost officer, a correctional staff member who wasn't on the payroll but had full access to movement schedules, inmate files, and surveillance blind spots. Now, it was no longer rumor. Through cross-reference bank statements and recorded calls, investigators identified him. Officer Daniel D.J. Martinez, a 17-year veteran of Pelican Bay. On paper, he was respected, quiet, efficient, a man who knew how to handle the hard cases. But behind the scenes, Martinez had been playing both sides. He'd built a secret alliance with a rising Mexican mafia lieutenant named Raul "Trigger" Sanchez, smuggling in phones and coded notes in exchange for thousands in cash funneled through fake construction companies on the outside. Inmates called him El Fantasma, the ghost. He could open cell doors when no one else could, shut off cameras, or delay yard patrols long enough for a message to be delivered, usually in blood. It was Martinez who reportedly allowed the fatal accident that ended Castellanos' reign. What investigators realized too late was that Castellanos had uncovered Martinez's double dealings and paid the ultimate price for it. When the FBI and California's internal affairs finally moved in, they executed simultaneous raids on Pelican Bay and several gang-linked homes in Southern California. It was one of the largest anti-gang operations in U.S. prison history. Over 40 suspects were arrested, including Martinez, who was found at his home trying to burn stacks of documents in a backyard barrel. Inside those documents were the final pieces of the puzzle, records showing how orders from Pelican Bay had shaped entire criminal enterprises on the streets of Los Angeles. Murders, extortion, and drug trafficking, all managed from solitary confinement cells built to prevent exactly that. The trial that followed in 2003 exposed everything. Federal prosecutors laid out years of evidence, secret payments, inside help, and coded orders written on the backs of Bible pages. Martinez pleaded guilty to racketeering and conspiracy to commit murder. He was sentenced to life in federal prison. Raul "Trigger" Sanchez disappeared into the federal witness protection system after agreeing to testify. But even with convictions, the story didn't end. Reports of new coded messages, new power structures, and shifting alliances kept emerging from Pelican Bay's concrete tombs. The violence never truly stopped, it simply changed hands. Today, Pelican Bay remains a symbol of what happens when control meets desperation, a place where power, fear, and survival are the only laws that matter. Guards walk the same corridors where gang leaders once ruled. The walls are quieter now, but every inmate, every officer, knows the truth. Inside America's hardest prison, nothing stays buried forever.